The Tony Dill Podcast. Hello again and welcome to the show. Let's get to meet my guest.
Adenike Lanlehin. I love it when I pronounce my name like that. I take my name seriously and other people's names anyway. So yeah, Adenike Lanlehin, she's a radio broadcaster and also a voice artist. She has one of the best narrative voices in the industry. Trust me, she does. She's a very fine reader, but one thing that stands her out is her professionalism and a willingness to share her radio knowledge.
Why radio?
Why radio? I honestly do not know what else I'd be doing if I wasn't on radio. I sometimes make fun of myself that, as big as I am, I'm not certain I can do anything else with myself. So why radio? What else?
How did you get into radio?
How did I get into radio? I was 19 and clueless. I just wanted to find a place to intern. The state radio OGBC was the closest to my school. So I went to drop my CWES letter there. They saw what I never saw in myself, and I'm thankful. And, here I am today.
Who are your biggest influences on radio?
The late Dan Foster. I can't believe I'm actually using late for him. He was a major influence. May his soul rest well. He was. Not only did I listen to him, for 2 years, I also watched him broadcast live, and it was a humbling experience for me. My father was also a broadcaster, so he also, unknowingly was a major influence too. My father really, he spoke really well, and he used to do jingles. He had this really beautiful voice, and, he spoke beautifully well.
What's your journey been like? How would you describe your journey? The highs, the lows, the in-betweens?
Radio has been quite eventful, but I still don't feel all that fulfilled, not yet. I feel there's a lot that I haven't given to radio, but I'm thankful all the same. Honestly, I'm pretty grateful. I've gone from being barely appreciated, to working with people, bosses, colleagues who loved me and who loved listening to me. It has been a good ride so far, no regrets.
What do you look for in a radio talent?
What do I look for in a radio talent? A great or very confident voice. You can just tell. I also look out for ease. Yes, E-A-S-E, ease. There is this particular ease that permeates great broadcasters. Like you can almost touch it. They don't try too hard. It comes easy to them. You can wake them up in the middle of the night to conduct a grade A interview and they will deliver like no other. That ease, you know it when you see it,
How do you approach your show prep?
My approach to show prep can be a bit intense because I just want everything to run smoothly, even if it is a music show. Everything has to be smooth. At the back of my head, I sort of tell myself that, everything is about the listener. And as much as it's about the listener, it's also about me because I have to be in the right frame of mind, to be able to deliver quality content to my listener. Also, talking about my listener, I'm always very okay, what's she thinking about this fine Thursday morning? What would he like to listen to? How is he doing? His health? What is he thinking about? Of course, I don't have the answers to all those, to all those questions. But I'm just saying that, I just think about my listener a lot. And I take note of everything in life, traffic, kids, radio stations. Yes, I listen to all stations. I listen to a lot of radio stations, rather. Family, banking, and sometimes social media. I mean, everything helps in generating content and then prepping adequately for my show. And I talked about social media also. I try as much as possible not to depend on social media these days because virtually everyone has access to social media. Virtually every broadcaster has access to social media. So I don't want to talk about what you are likely to talk about. So I try as much as possible not to rely heavily on social media. Also, my notes app is always on standby for anything that looks like content to be discussed on my show or program. And lastly, my show prep involves a lot of writing. I write a lot, everything I want to do, everything I want to talk about, the kind of music I'd like to play. I just make sure that, I pencil everything down in my, in my jotter.
What's the inspiration behind your Instagram series, Radio Lessons?
My Instagram series, Radio Lessons. What inspired Radio Lessons? Tony Doe, shout out to you. Thank you so much. Before I started doing visuals, I'd been writing articles and regular, IG posts for some time, sharing radio tips from time to time, But one day, Tony Doe sent me a message advising me to start doing videos. I actually didn't want to. I didn't want to do that because I was not, I wasn't really a visual person. Another reason I fell in love with radio, nobody can see your face. But I eventually caved in, and here we are. So once again, thank you so much, Tony Doe.
Who has been your favorite guest on radio?
My favorite guest, Professor Kasigaraba and Genevieve Inaji. Professor Kasigaraba actually served briefly as a chief economic advisor under former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. I really enjoyed speaking with her because she was very warm. She's very knowledgeable, of course. She's a professor. Very knowledgeable, and she was very easy to talk to. Yes, let me say that. Very easy to talk to. Genevieve Inaji, she's a veteran Nollywood actor. She answered all my questions. No airs whatsoever. She was so easy to speak with, very easy to speak with. And she was not condescending in any way. I just liked her. She was just very kind. Yeah.
Who's been your worst radio guest?
My worst radio guest? Let me just keep quiet.
That I can understand. How would you describe the role of the NBC in broadcast regulation in light of recent events like NSAS and, of course, the Twitter ban?
Okay, here's what I think. The earlier broadcasters realized that the NBC, as a relic of the military regime, is for the government and not for the broadcaster. The better for everyone. For example, look at the unfortunate Twitter ban. Look at how the NBC quickly swooped in. Licking the federal government's behind, gagging stations immediately from using Twitter, sending letters and stuff. A ban that was even legal and utterly draconian. But the NBC really doesn't care about illegality, especially when it is being perpetrated by the government. It is the government's mouthpiece because when you realize that, it's under the Ministry of Information, you know that they speak for the government. So you must understand that the commission was not created for you, the broadcaster. It is a government agency.
What do you think about podcasts? And in your view, how do they compare to radio?
Maybe because I live in Nigeria, where unlimited data is still like a luxury to a lot of people. But I don't like comparing podcast to radio. It's just like apples and oranges. Podcasts to me are like radio programs, not radio stations. You get me? The beauty of it is that you're not forced to listen to shows or programs that you do not like. You get to choose your programs. You get to choose those programs. You get to choose the shows. You get to choose the presenters. You as a listener, you get to decide what or who to listen to. And I think that's beautiful. It's incredible.
Let's talk music. Music you like, music you enjoy, music you listen to a lot. What top 5 songs and artists are on your playlist right now?
5 songs on my playlist. 1, Dunsi Oyekon. Yeah, I love it. Elevation Worship and Maverick City Music, Jire. I love it. Commander by Buju. Absolutely beautiful. It's not a new song, but I love it so much. Then there's this one, Olamide and J Wills. It's titled Jailer. It's absolutely beautiful. I love it too. And lastly, there's this group from South Africa, Black Diamond. They have this song called Soma Yomuthi. It's like I listen to it almost every day. It's beautiful. I love it. So those 5 songs, yeah.
What are your 3 worst pet peeves?
My 3 worst pet peeves. 1, being late. I cannot tolerate people who have no regard for other people's time. 2, there's something very annoying about people who love to name drop. Like, it's a proper pet peeve for me. And lastly, being in traffic. I'm almost at a stage in my life where I consider it a phobia. The moment I spot traffic ahead of me, I just lose it completely. I lose it. To think I live in Lagos, but
What legacy would you want to leave behind?
that I genuinely cared for the craft, honestly. Like, if you know me, you'd know that's the truth about me. Radio means a lot to me. It really does. And I want people to know that I loved radio and I genuinely cared, for broadcasting.
Adenike, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Tony Doe. Like, I had a fantastic time with you. Thank you, and God bless you.
If you enjoyed the podcast, do me a favor and tell somebody about it. Let them check it out as well. Also, if you'd like to support, the links are in the show notes on how you can do that. Thank you for listening.